captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seat and fasten your seatbelts. Thank you.
Weekend countdown.
9, 8,
Weekend
7,
countdown.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This program is sponsored by Lightway. Lightway is a simple way. Our specialty is ultralight gear for bright adventures. The basis on which built gear: simplicity, lightness, versatility. We know that gear can be light, functional, and convenient. Lightway lightness is where you are.
The Scrubbo Wash Bag is the world's smallest washing machine and is perfect for apartment living, travel, and camping. Featuring a flexible inner washboard, the pocket-sized Scrubbo Wash Bag allows a machine-quality wash anywhere in just minutes.
Welcome to the live interview with the one and only Chris Hazard, aka Hiking Guy. Get ready to embark on an epic adventure with this professional outdoors guide, hiking expert, outdoor technology geek, and author based in Southern California. His website and YouTube channel offer the ultimate guide for hikers of all levels, with detailed directions that even the most beginner hiker can follow. And that's not all. Chris also shares his expert opinions on what hiking gear works and what doesn't, ensuring that you have the best equipment for your next adventure. So, let's get ready to be inspired and motivated by this incredible hiking guru. Get your hiking boots on, and let's hit the trails with Chris Hazard, the hiking guy.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm very grateful, and I have to tell you that I admire you a lot. Before I ask you who you are, I want to explain why I am interviewing you and the reason that you are so important to me. Chris, I've been following you since 2017, I think, something like that. I'm from Dominican Republic, but I'm living here in Barcelona, Spain. And I remember that when I saw your channel, I said to myself one day, you know what? I'm going to be like Chris someday. But being honest, in the Dominican Republic, it's not so easy to hike. So I said, you know, I want to be like Chris, but the next year and the next year. What happened? In 2019, I just moved to here, to Barcelona, Spain, and this is where my life hiking began. And I started hiking. I started following your incredible advices about how to plan a road, which app to use, about your Garmin reviews. And I remember the first review that I saw from you was the Garmin eTrex 32X, something like that. I don't remember exactly. And I said to myself, wow, I will be doing the same review one day. Now, I don't know in which model they are right now, but anyway, the point is that I'm here in Spain. I'm becoming a very important hiker. Actually, there's a social platform for hiker that's called Wikiloc, and there's 11 million hikers or users, and I am in the top 150. For being honest, Chris, this is thanks to you. So when I ask you if I can interview you and you say yes for sure, it was like, whoa, I'm going to interview the hiking guy. So I have you like a pedestal. So thank you so much. And being saying that, who are you? Who is behind the hiking guy?
Who are you? Well, thank you, first of all, Jordy, for inviting me on, and thank you for watching the channel and tuning in and having it be such a interesting part of your life and your hiking journey. I appreciate it all, and that's music to my ears, because when I first started doing this, this channel was actually a website first, but when I first started doing this, the whole idea was to help other people hiking. I wasn't raised in an environment like where we went to national parks all the time and hiked all the time. I was raised in kind of a suburban environment, and I really didn't get into hiking until I was older. And when I did, I had to go through a lot of the kind of like the, what do you call it? The speed bumps when you're learning, like, the school of hard knocks kind of thing. I'm using a lot of phrases here, but there's a lot of mistakes that I made in the beginning. And I thought, if there was a resource that was out there, I could probably help people skip this. And that was sort of in the back of my mind. Fast forward to about 10 years ago, I moved to California. I was hiking quite a bit here in Southern California, and I'd have friends that came out and they would ask me for directions how to hike to Mount Baldy or hike wherever. And I originally just would cut and paste an email that had the directions in it, and very kind of, I like to call it like concrete terms, make a left after 4 miles at this junction. And then somebody suggested that I put it on the internet, and I just started putting them on the internet, and then it just grew organically from there. I started guiding professionally. I took some courses, Knowles courses and different courses. I was actually, years ago, side story, before I got into hiking, I was a tour guide in New York City on those double-decker tour buses.
Oh, yes.
So I had a little experience of it's not the same thing, obviously, but telling people about different things that they might be seeing and telling stories about things. So anyway, put it online. I started guiding, and I've been doing it ever since. So.
Wow. Yeah, you have a great touch with people, Chris, because here in Spain, of course, it's not very common to see YouTubers that speak English, because very sadly here in English, in Spain, well, you know that. The point is that after I started recommending your reviews and the way you do your videos of hiking, there is a common, and I can tell you that there's a common point between all the people that recommend your channel. And they said, I love his review because he's no bored. He's, when you're seeing a review, sometimes you get sleepy because let me forward. And this, what the people is saying, no. The way that he did the review is like you are like all the time, wow, like trying to learning something different. So I admire the way that you kept your audience active and listen to you all the time. And how I know that, because I saw all the reviews in your videos, and it's mean that wow, the people are taking a look at what you are doing. So please, this sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you for that. I mean, I try to just stay to the point, because I found the same thing. If you go on YouTube, a lot of people just they talk a lot and they don't get to the point. And I know that people's time is valuable, and I know that they just want to know the answer to whatever they're looking for. So
yeah, sure.
There's nothing to be gained by just kind of droning on. So I just try to keep it succinct, keep it focused, and it's good to hear that it works for people. So
yes, it is, and works a lot. Before I enter in the question that I would love to know from you,
sure.
Let me ask you. You started, like a tour guide in New York, as you mentioned before, and you start doing your video about hiking. But yeah, how do you pass from doing a tour guide or doing a regular hike to the reviews a hike? I mean, because Chris, it's not very easy to do a review, because you have to purchase the devices, or you have to spend the whole day contacting the company. Hey, I'm this, I want. So and what happened, and this is very important, is when you receive, and I want to ask you that, when you receive, I don't know, let's say, and I will not mention a brand, but let's say let's say that this mobile is called ABC, and you contact, hey, ABC, I want to try your mobile. Oh yes, sure, you have it. You have like a compromise. Well, can I tell the truth, because they just gave me $1,000 mobile? How do you manage that, and how do you path from normal hike to make the reviews?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I do it definitely different than a lot of other people. So I don't do any sponsored reviews. I don't ask for free gear. Occasionally, a company will send me a piece of gear to test for free. But I always let them know that I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to do anything different. I'm not going to say this was a gear. And I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times that has happened. I don't review things, or I don't recommend things that I don't think would work for people. So if I get something and it's no good, I'm just not going to post a review on it. I'm not going to review it and say, don't get this, it's no good. I'm just not going to waste anyone's time. But in general, I buy everything myself. I pay for everything myself. I test it. It's tough because I don't take sponsorships. So if you look at a lot of other channels, people need to get advertisements basically to stay afloat. But I think that doing that would compromise the editorial integrity of what I'm saying, at least for people who aren't familiar with me. It wouldn't in reality, but yeah, I buy all the stuff myself and I test it. And a lot of the times, because I just need the money, I'll sell it after I test it, or I'll move on and do that. But it's an interesting time to be making guides like this on YouTube, because I see people, I know companies that will contact me, and I usually take a pass on it. And then I see other channels that might be using that same gear, and I know, okay, they got that gear for free and now they're talking about it. But and it's okay. Like, I think the more content, the more information we have out there about whatever it might be, whether a trail or a skill or a piece of gear, just the better for hikers in general. It just gives you more perspectives to kind of make a decision from. So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Chris, and I tell you, this is the last question. Then, or something I want to tell you is very funny, and then I will start with the question. Chris, in my wonderful life to try to be like you, I just start purchasing gadgets to my house, and for example, I have to tell you, Garmin is not paying me, but I purchased this watch because of you. This is the Garmin Fenix 7X, and this I know you use the Epics, but what is very funny is that I'm all the time purchasing gadgets, and my wife told me, "Can you tell me when you're going to stop purchasing things?" And I say, "No, honey, it's because I want to be like the hiking guy. I want to make review." And one day my wife told me, "You know what? If you decide to buy something else to this house, you and me going to have a problem." And when I told my wife that I'll be interviewing you, my wife told me, "I really hope that you stop purchasing things to make review." So yeah, it was so funny. So and stories like this, you should have a lot of them, right, Chris?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, my wife says the same thing. She says, "How many backpacks do you need? How many hiking shoes do you need?" And it's like, yeah, well, I do this for a living, so maybe a little pack. But and the irony is, I like technology and I like having good gear, but I don't like spending a lot of time on it. I end up doing that because there's just a lot to cover and a lot to test, but I'd rather just be hiking. Like if you just told me, like, pick one backpack, pick one pair of hiking shoes and some basic gear, and you can just, make a living for yourself and be very helpful still just doing trail guides, I would do it. But, I'm always sort of looking for the perfect backpack, or like a model will change. That just happened with a pack that's called, that I've been recommending, called the Gregory Zulu 30. It's like a good day pack.
Okay.
And they just changed the design, and now I have to test the new one out, and hopefully they mess it up. But it definitely happens that they mess it up. So I end up spending more time testing gear than I'd really want to. Really, if it were up to me, I would just be hiking all the time. But it's just not possible, I guess.
Chris, and this takes us to our first question. That is, what keeps you coming to the mountain once and again? Because this question is from a friend of mine that asked me to ask you this, because when you are in the mountain or in a trail doing a hike by pleasure, you enjoy it a lot. But when you are doing a test of a backpack or a boots or a whatever in the mountain, you don't you don't enjoy it very well, but you have to pay attention about what you are doing. It's like a job. So how do you decide, today I'm going to have fun, and today, but no, now I'm going to do a reviewing, because it's complicated.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And I mean, it's the older you get, you realize that time is the ultimate resource, more important than almost anything. And where you spend your time is important. And generally, if I'm doing a trail guide, I've done the hike at least once before, if not many times before. So I know it. I'm doing a lot of research on the hike, like looking at old books, old newspapers, whatever it might be to find out about it. Studying like the wildlife, studying all different types of things. And then I'm editing that to figure out what's the most important things, what's the most interesting aspects of the trail. So long way of saying, like, there's a lot of work that goes into producing a trail guide. And when I do it, while it is fun, and, you know, even if I'm out there like shooting video and taking notes and doing all kinds of things, I still pinch myself because I'm like, I'm so blessed that I can do this partially to like make a living and have this be my job here. But, you know, it's definitely not like a leisurely hike. It's a lot of work. There's a checklist. It's almost, I have a friend who was in the military, and he's like, it's almost like a military procedure. Like you have a checklist, you have checkpoints, you're going through this thing, you're checking these things off, you're moving through. And, you know, obviously it's not like the military, but it's, you know, it's just a lot to occupy you and focus on one thing at a time. So generally, you know, I probably do half and half the time, just sort of hiking for fun, or I might go for bike rides for fun, just to stay in shape and mix it up a little bit. But most of the time when I'm on the trail, I'm very focused on what I'm doing. People come up and say hello to me all the time, and I love that. But, you know, sometimes people ask, like, can I go hike with you? And can I do this? And it's like, I'm working. So it's, you know, it's not as leisurely, I think, as people think. And if you watch a lot of other kind of more casual YouTube videos, there's a different approach, or there's different approaches that you can take. But for me, because I want these trail guides to be pretty definitive and my reviews to be definitive, like I spend a lot of time preparing and researching. So by the time I'm shooting it, you know, the whole part of the iceberg that's underwater is basically done, or a lot of it done. But I wish there were more hours in the day, because I would hike and bike and spend time with my family and camp and do everything. But it's a tough challenge to juggle it all.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't know in your side, but in my side, it's very tough because I mean, I need to mix it with my regular job, plus my family, plus my little girls, plus, you know, the hiking, plus now that I'm trying to be like you, doing review that my wife told me, your review really, well, we are live, I can say that, but your review really sucks, Jordi. So I think you should stop doing. Your review are the worst review that I have seen in the whole YouTube. I love you, honey. But yeah, I know it's very complicated. It's very complicated.
If I was 18 years old, I would buy a van and I would just drive around the country and do this. But when I was 18 years old, this wasn't a thing. So
it happened the same to me when I saw, you know, the young people hiking in the mountain and in a van, or spending a lot of days. I say, wow, how they can do that? I want to do that. No, it's incredible. And that takes me to the other question, Chris. I saw recently in your Instagram account that you appeared in the Fox News. How do you get to the Fox News? Wow, man, I'm talking to a celebrity right now. How was that?
Well, first you have to get through all the paparazzi. You know, you have to make sure the paparazzi aren't chasing you. Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate. I was able to be on Fox, and recently I did interviews. I was on CNN websites in an article, and another Fox News article, and I'm going to be in a couple other ones. But what happens is that reporters reach out looking for information. They see that I've created a guide on some sort of a subject or whatever, and they just ask me for comments. And sometimes it leads to like an interview on television. Sometimes it's a written article. But I've just been lucky in that sense that reporters have reached out and found me. And some of it's word of mouth through friends. And some of it's just finding me on the internet and asking me questions. And then, you know, obviously there's processes, journalistic processes where people, they get a couple sources and stuff, but I'm always happy to be mentioned. And the whole reason, like I said, I'm doing this is to help other hikers and to basically demystify or reduce anxiety about hiking in the outdoors. So whatever I can do to help people enjoy the outdoors, whether it's like a very simple beginner's tip, like it was on that Fox News channel, which was, I think I said, make sure you bring water if you go hiking, something like that, or something a little more complex, like about search and rescue or some of the tragedies that have happened here in Southern California lately. I'm happy just to lend my voice, and hopefully it's helpful.
Wow. Oh, that's great. And that, Chris, take us to our other question. Chris, I saw your review about the Garmin InReach. That I saw that you use the Mini. Me, in my case, I use the Spot Gen 4. I don't know if you are familiar to the Spot Gen 4. This is the one that I use, and I will tell you here, for example, in Spain, if you click the SOS button, and it was really an emergency. I don't know in the rest of Europe countries, but in Spain, if you click that, of course, it will connect to the rescue company, and they will connect to the whatever. And at the end, if the helicopters rescue me, or anyone who clicks the SOS, and it was a real emergency, it is free. It's the same in the US. And the other question, why you choose the Garmin Reach instead of the Spot Gen 4?
Yeah, good question. The question about how the rescue works is interesting, because I'm about to put a video out on that exact same subject.
Yeah,
but
we're connected.
We're connected. I was lucky enough to speak with, here in the United States, the executive director of the National Association for Search and Rescue, which is the national organization. And I had a really good, long conversation answering some of the questions that I get from people who subscribe all the time. And basically the idea is, if you hit the SOS button and it's a legitimate emergency, you don't have to pay for it here. But if it's something that's frivolous or negligent, like if you show up at the trail and there's a big yellow tape in front that says the trail is closed, do not hike, and you go on the trail and you get in trouble, then you have to pay for the rescue. Where they'll try to collect for the rescue. And it's a little bit complicated, because here in the United States, it's actually like this, I think, in a lot of the world too, probably in Spain, but the different states within the country or the different provinces run search and rescue. And some of it may be official, some of it may be volunteer. Most of it's volunteer with like a little mix of official in there. So there's not one, generally there's not, at least in the States here, there's not one like national standard for search and rescue. It depends where you are. You can hit the button on that satellite communicator in some places in the United States and no one will come, or they'll send a police car to like the trailhead. So a lot of it depends. And I'll talk about that in the video. If you're not, if you're interested in it, just subscribe.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course, because Chris, this is very important to know, because like I said, I'm talking about here in Spain, and here in Spain happened this. In the past, I don't know when in the past, maybe in the 80s, I don't know. I should been asking that, when was that mean in the past? But anyway, in the past, it was free. And happened that all the Spaniard was hiking with regular shoes, like you said, crossing borders where they say do not cross and all that, and they have an accident, and the helicopter from the Guardia Civil was all the time picking everybody. What happened? Then the government decided that they will charge to everybody who clicked the SOS button. And what happened is that the Spaniard, when they really had an accident, they decide not to click the SOS because they will be charged. So the people start dying and have a worse accident. So the government now decide that, okay, it's going to be free, like you said, if it's really an emergency. If not, but anyway, I'll be more than happy to see your video about that. Yeah,
it's interesting you brought that up, because I discussed that too. And that's the worry. Like the people who run search and rescue want to be able to help people. And the thing is, everyone has a different level of experience, and you can't expect people, people don't know what they don't know. And as long as they're following the rules to the best of their ability, or to the a reasonable ability, they're entitled to a rescue. I mean, everyone's entitled to a rescue, but it's an interesting case, because that's the worry. If you just say everything's going to be charged for it, that people will be like, I think I can make it. I think I can make it. And then they die, or they put themselves in a worse situation trying to get out.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And Chris, why you choose Garmin Reach?
Yeah, so I wish I could tell you that Garmin paid me millions of dollars a year, but that's not the case. Garmin barely talks to me, but I don't have any association with Garmin. But the Spot, I had a Spot when it first came out, and they were the first ones to offer like the text messaging capabilities on the satellite, and it was great. And
I know which one it was.
Yeah, that first, it was like a puck kind of thing. And it was great. And then the DeLorme InReach came out. That was the company that had it before Garmin bought InReach. And I had that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called DeLorme. It's a company, I think in Maine. They make maps, but they had that. I'm not sure why they decided to build that, but it was great. And they partnered with Iridium, which is a satellite company, and then Garmin purchased them. And I had that, and I found when was this? When did that first DeLorme came out? It's probably coming up on maybe 8-9 years ago. But there was a point where the InReach had much better performance than the Spot. So on that Spot, I would hit the button and it wouldn't go through maybe half the time, whereas the InReach would go through all the time. And then I tried the next Spot, the new version, whatever, the Gen 2, and that had the same problem. And I had users, friends and users email me saying that the customer service was bad. So I just sort of gave up on Spot because there was enough to look at with InReach. But I did hear that the latest Gen 4 that you have is much better, and a lot of the issues that they have are better than it was before. And also, Spot uses Globalstar, the Globalstar satellite network, which is the same network that the new Apple iPhone 14 uses for SOS as well. So I'd imagine that when Apple came in and invested several $100 million into it, that maybe they just use it to update or refresh or improve the processes, workflows, and technology across the board. So and I wouldn't be surprised if Apple were to buy them, because they have I think Spot is part of Globalstar. I'm not positive, but I wouldn't be surprised if Apple bought Globalstar at some point, just because they have a license already to have satellites in orbit. That's not just something you can do. They have the infrastructure. They have already satellites up there. So, and the stock wasn't doing too good for a while. It was up for a while, and it went down as InReach got bigger. Globalstar, I think, suffered a bit, but yeah, I'm happy to see that it's better now. I'm happy to see that.
I can tell you, Chris, that they are not paying me. And actually, I paid $12 per month, and I purchased my device. So I can tell you that, in my case, all the message that I send through Spot, it goes out. The truth is that if I am in the middle of two mountains together, or in a very dense wood, in that case, in that scenario, no, but it keeps sending. And when I am again with a clear sky, the message sent. And I have tried many times, and in my case, the Spot Gen 4, it really works. But anyway, Chris, the second question that I would like to ask is a question that I asked you before, and it's like a common question about the U.S. hiking and the European hiking. Again, here in Spain, we don't have wild animals that can threaten their life. I mean, we have the bears in the north. There's a few. We don't have wolf. We don't have deadly snake. And to hike here in Spain, it's so nice. I mean, it's because you you are just free of mind. But I know you will tell me no, but what happened? If you search in YouTube, hiking the US, you will saw a jaguar, a panther, I know the name of the wild cat,
Yeah.
and you see the hiker walking backward. Hey, wait. And if you search bears attack in the US, in Yellowstone, for example, you see bears. If you saw the movie Into the Wild, I think was the movie that was filmed in Alaska, you see bear attack. So my question is, how is to hike in the US with a wild animal?
The only wild animals you really have to worry about are human beings. Human beings are probably the scariest things you might encounter on a trail. So Alaska is a little bit different. Alaska has grizzlies, and you're in grizzly territory. And even if you go up into the Rockies in Montana, there's grizzlies. But let's just separate that out for a second and talk about most of everywhere else in the United States. Yeah. The main animals that you're going to encounter that have a bad reputation unjustly are black bears. Black bears generally don't attack humans. I've encountered probably at this point hundreds of black bears. Generally, they always run away from you. The black bears that can get aggressive are the ones that have been used to eating human food. So ones that like dig in garbage cans, or ones that go through backpacks. And if you take precautions like using a bear canister, or basically making sure you're sleeping in a tent that doesn't have any scents or anything that it would attract a bear, you're usually totally fine. It's very, very rare, given the millions of hours that people hike here on trails in the United States, that there's an animal attack from anything. So, but that's a bear. Mountain lions, same thing. They attack occasionally if they think that they can, like a child. Sometimes they'll be threatening towards a child, and we've had that happen here where I live in Southern California a little bit more lately. But again, that's happening in a place that's close to human development. That's happening in a place where deer feed all the time. And it's not really something you ever have to think about normally hiking. If you have a dog or a small child, you might want to be a little more aware. But mountain lion attacks are very, very rare. Like statistically, you'd probably have a better chance of winning lottery and being selected to fly to the moon or something like that. It's just incredibly rare. The one thing that maybe happens more, and I'm not a wildlife expert, I just know this all anecdotally, but the one thing that happens more probably than others is that people get bitten by a snake, like a rattlesnake. And what to know is that any animals in general aren't actively looking to hurt you. Animals, in my experience, have always just wanted to avoid human beings. And I'm going to talk about grizzlies in a second, and black bears too, but people step on snakes because they're not paying attention.
Yeah, true.
They blend in really well. I mean, they're so, I've almost stepped on snakes many times because they're so well camouflaged. They could just be in a pile of leaves or in the sand, and it's really hard to see it. I appreciate that a rattlesnake has a rattler because it'll give you a warning before you get caught.
With the sound,
and they can feel the vibration in the ground. So if you're walking, generally they'll know that you're coming beforehand, and they get out of the way. And it's rare that I find, sometimes you find a rattler just like laying across the trail, and you kind of like toss some sticks at it or something and try to get it to move. But I think most people get into trouble with snakes when they are not paying attention. They have headphones in, they're going downhill, they're going fast, they're not watching every step, and they step on it and it bites them. And most rattlesnake bites, I don't think, are life-threatening here. I'm sure there's like pit vipers and stuff, maybe in the Southwest. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But I'm sure there's some snakes that can kill you quickly. But in general, from what I've heard and seen and know from the community, that if you get stuck, you press the button on your inReach, and they'll fly you somewhere that has an anti-venom. And you get and take care of. But these creatures are not actively seeking out humans to attack. Like, we are not prey for snakes or bears or maybe mountain lions, but not really. Like, there's plenty of things for them to eat without having to, come for you. The one thing that I would say is that when animals have young, especially bears, especially
Yeah.
grizzly bears, when they have cubs, they can be a little more aggressive, because if you're walking down a trail and they're walking down a trail, they're going to get you to get off the trail because they're going to want their cubs protected. So they might be a little more aggressive than normal. Generally, you want to give animals like a wide berth in that case.
Okay.
But to give you some context, I mean, I hike thousands and thousands of miles all over the place, and I've never encountered like an aggressive bear with cubs. I've encountered bears with cubs, and they've just kind of done their own thing. But I've never had any kind of aggressiveness from any animal. So
you never had you don't have a story that put your life in danger while hiking ever?
No,
Chris?
no. You know, I've seen grizzlies. I know that grizzlies can have a reputation of being kind of grouchy or aggressive. And I've been to Glacier National Park, and I've been to a place called the Bob Marshall Wilderness, which is up in Montana, that has a lot of grizzlies, and I've seen them from a distance. And whenever I've seen them and they've been in the path, I just hang out and wait. I make noise so they know that I'm there.
Okay.
And I've never had a problem with wildlife. So I think it's definitely a big misconception that if you hike here, you have to, you have to worry about something attacking you. What you do have to do is you have to pay attention. So, don't hike with headphones. If you're hiking with other people, and if you're going to chat, still pay attention to where your feet are going and what's going on around you. I think if you just go there and you immerse yourself in nature and you pay attention to what's going on in nature, it's just a more pleasant experience anyway. And if you see wildlife that way, it's more of a joy and a blessing to be like, oh, wow, I saw a bear or a rattlesnake or whatever it might be.
Okay.
I mean, I have, I'm just trying to think of something that might have been scary. I mean, there have been times when I've walked around the corner on a trail and, in the middle of nowhere, and I've been like face to face with a black bear. There's one encounter I'm thinking about there's a trail here called the Gabrielino in Angeles National Forest. And I came around a corner in a really remote part, and I was face to face with a pretty huge black bear. And we looked at each other in the eyes, and he was like, he had that, holy shit look on his face, and he just ran away. But
Chris, and what you did at that moment? I mean, what do you thought at that moment? What, this is my last time?
No,
because
your heart skips. I mean, your heart goes into your throat for a second, but once that happens and you kind of calm down, by that time the bear is running away.
Okay.
And usually bears, I from my experience, you can smell bears. Bears smell like wet dogs. Like a dog is wet and that kind of has like that stinky smell. You can kind of smell them a little bit farther out. And bears are not. There's definitely been black bears that have eaten a human. I know of one case in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey, maybe 10 years ago, where it attacked a hiker. I'm not sure what the circumstances, but generally bears eat berries and stuff. They're not looking at a hiker as prey, I don't think. So.
Okay. And that takes us to the other question, Chris. How do you prefer to hike alone, solo hike, with you and yourself, or, I mean, with a group of people, friends, family?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I didn't have the website and I didn't do the guides, I would love to go and hike with friends and chat and have a good time. But doing the guides, it's much better for me to hike alone because I can focus on what I need to do to document the trail and take notes and all of that. But I try to, like, once each quarter or so, I try to get together with friends and we'll go backpacking somewhere for a day or two. Just, and sometimes I make a video out of it and sometimes I don't. But I wish I had more time just to go out with friends and just enjoy nature together and backpack. But obviously, this takes up quite a bit of time to do all the work here.
That's a problem when you have with friends. I mean, with many people, it's a problem because you are filming. You have to say, no, wait, give me a second. Let me make this shot. No, wait, give me. Chris, come on again, please. It's gonna be late. It happened the same with
Yeah.
me. It happened the same with me, and it's
Yeah.
a big problem. And Chris, let me ask you about this question. And please don't say what a stupid question. No, but Chris, this is true, and this is a question that not many people ask. Okay, Chris. In my channel, I have others interviewed. I have interviewed many people, and I have to admit, very formal people. And the reason I'm making this interview is because in this summer, I will be doing the GR11. The GR11 trail is like the Appalachian Trail that is from one side to other side of the country. In the case of Spain, it's from the Mediterranean Sea to the Cantabric Sea, and it's one of the most challenging routes in Europe, and I will be doing that. And I have interviewed many people, and please don't say that this is a stupid question, Chris. Okay, and I want to ask you about ghost, about Indian spectrum or something like that. You say, yeah, what? Wait, let me explain why I'm asking you to do this, Chris. The other day, I've interviewed in my channel, and well, it's in Spanish, but I have that interview. I interview the most recognized and serious website in Spain, well, in Europe, about the GR11. They are called Travesía Pirenaica. So I mean, whatever you say, Travesía Pirenaica, no, they are the best, and they're so formal and whatever. And I was talking to the founder of the website, and I said, you know what? Tell me about ghosts. No, there's no ghosts. Please tell me about ghosts. And he told me, well, I have to tell you, the truth is, we were 5 people hiking in the Pyrenees, and the night caught us. And yeah, we saw a spectrum, and we scared to death. And we start running downhill. And then we realized, hey, we're going to have an accident. But he said, Jordi, we were 5 of us, and yes, we saw it. I also interview a German girl that she's from the University of, important university, I will not mention the name. And she said, you know what happened to me? Yes. At the beginning, she was, no. And then she said, no, yeah. What happened to me, that also in the Pyrenees, is one day I was camping alone in a mountain, in a peak, because it was a peak, and I know I was alone, and there was a dense fog by the weather, and in the night I heard some people singing. I said, but I am alone here, and I just went out from my tent because I thought, well, there's someone camping next to me. And I was trying to search, and I found nobody. But I was hearing and she works for an important university, and she said, Jordi, I know you're doing this live, but this is the truth. Okay, this is in Europe. Now, in the United States, I have a friend that he hiked in the Everglades. In the Everglades in Florida. I don't know how he did it, because with all the gators that are there. But anyway, and he promised that he was crossing an Indian reserve, because most of the Everglades are from the Indian tribe, from the American Indian. And they say that one night he was so scared because he saw something, near like the trail that it was supposed to be nobody. And he told me, Jordi, I saw someone walking in a trail that it was dark, and I was alone over there. I said, what? So my question is, Chris, tell me the truth. Do you have any story about that?
I wish I did. A couple things. When you were talking about that, when you're camping alone in the dark in the wilderness, obviously your imagination can whether ghosts are true or not, there's definitely room to be paranoid and scared. And it's funny because I see it too. When I was out, I was thinking about what we were just talking about with the bears and stuff. Like I've been with people, when you do see a bear, every rustle in the leaves after that is a bear. The squirrel, the blue jay, everything that makes a sound is a bear. And that can happen too at night when you're camping and you're all alone, and the power of your minds can bring up whatever kinds of whatever your imagination can lead to. And I'm not saying, I'd have no idea about ghosts. They could be true. I'm sure they are. Why not? But I have taken pictures before for my guides, and people have reached out to me and said, oh, look at this picture. There's an orb in there. That means it's a ghost or a spirit. And that happens, every couple of times a year, I'll get an email from somebody who's into that stuff, and they'll say that. But I've never had any kind of personal encounter with that. But it's interesting because there's some trails around here where I live that people say are haunted. There's one where a group of 1830s, maybe, a group of Native Americans were killed by settlers, and it's supposed to be a haunted trail. And it's possible, but I've never had any. I'm sorry, I don't have any good ghost stories.
No, look, Chris, you just mentioned something that happened to others, so no, it's okay. I want to tell you, Chris, about this. Let me show you.
Yeah.
This let me share my screen. Okay, let me tell you that this happened to me. I promise you. After this, we're going to change to the other question, so you don't think what a stupid question. Look, Chris, this is a wiki log. Well, thanks to you, I'm very well ranking right now, but my wife doesn't agree. My wife saying that I'm purchasing too many things that is not necessary in my house. But anyway, I was hiking. Chris, are you seeing my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was hiking here in Barcelona. Okay, for you to see Spain. Okay, this is Spain, and this is Barcelona, where I live. Mm-hmm. And there's a virgin mountain that it's called, oh my God. Montseny. Yeah, the Montseny mountain. It's very virgin. It's very freaky. It looks like the ghost terror movie from Hollywood. So yeah, it's very creepy. And I was hiking with a friend. We were three of us. That, for example, this is me, and I was hiking the trail. Well, you can see how virgin it is. This is me crossing a bush, and what happened? And you can see the trees over there, like a horror movie, like what's the name of the movie from the 90s? Chris, that is called The Blair Witch Project. You say yourself, it looked like that. And this is me. And what happened, Chris? Then the night, I will stop here because the next picture is the one that I want to show you. The night caught us. We were hiking in the night, and suddenly, we saw the night is going to cut us. It was not suddenly. But we didn't reach to the train station where we have to be to get back to Barcelona. And I am a Christian. So I Christian, so I believe in the good things and also believe in bad things. As angels exist, I believe that demons also exist. And what happened, Chris, that we were very tired. Now you will say, no, it was your mind. No, it wasn't mine. No, because it was a picture. I will show you the picture now. And what happened, Chris, that I was hiking, and in a certain moment, I start feeling, I know I'm very positive, I'm happy all the time, but there was a moment that I felt so cold. Yeah, it was very cold. But anyway, something that is not normal. And I don't know how to say in English, but when your skin...
hair stands up on your...
Exactly. Yeah. And I felt that. And I was very angustiado. I don't know how to say angustiado in English. That I was not feeling okay. But anyway, I said to my friend, and I will show you the picture now. And I said to my friend that was, far away from me in the front, hey, turn around, let me take a picture. And I just shot a picture. And I said, oh, it's okay. And we continue walking. When I just got home that day, my wife always say, hey, let me see the picture. I don't know if she wants to see if I was really hiking or not. But anyway, we were in the living room. And yeah, who knows? And I just put the all the pictures that I took, and it was my daughter who told me, Daddy, but look what you have over there. And let me show you. Okay, Chris, and this is the picture. Jordan, I don't see anything. Okay, Chris, let me show you again. This is the original picture. You can see like a face upside. Like a little turn to the right with the eyes, nose, and mouth. Yori, I don't see anything. Well, there's over there, and you can see it's over there, and there's a full of dust. And at that moment, I remember this was not a wind, so that the little dot that one of your followers sent you, it's full of dust. The little point, and I can swear to you, Chris, that there was no wind at that time. We were so quiet, so relaxed, and this is one of the things that happened to me. And again, this is the last thing. Then I will change the topic. The other thing, Chris, is I was hiking. I was hiking here in Catalonia, in Spain. There's a different poltergeist town, abandoning town, and all that. And I crossed one of the most paranormal activity. And I was with a friend. I said, "No, Johnny, that's okay." And yeah, we'll enter to that abandoned town. And when he entered, Chris, and he said, "Wow, I felt sick. I felt with nausea. I feel tired." And as soon as I go out from that abandoned town, I just start feeling better again. But anyway, Chris, let me ask you let's end the ghost topic. The other question is, I saw you make a great review about the hiking apps. Me, in my case, Chris, I use Gaia. Most of it, I don't know, maybe because I just got used to Gaia GPS, and I just use it, and I'm finding it a very nice app. But in your experience, if a hiker that doesn't have the money, because it's expensive to buy a Garmin E-Trix or whatever, and they want to hike with a mobile phone, what should be your recommendation? Which app and how to use it, Chris?
Yeah, it's a good question. And thank you for showing me that picture, the ghost picture. I definitely saw the ghost on the picture. So there's something there.
Whoa! I'm happy. And Chris, now, because, we are, I don't want to spend like 20 minutes, but I have the other hikes around Ghost Town here in Spain that I will send you to by email.
Nice. Yeah. So apps. So what a lot of people don't know is, number one, you don't need a lot of fancy equipment to go hiking, right? To get it on a higher level, you really just need some fitness clothes, bring some water, some snacks, some layers, and you can be okay. Navigation for a lot of people is the challenge. And like you said, you don't have to buy Garmin or a dedicated GPS. Yeah. You can use your phone. A lot of people don't realize that a phone has a very sophisticated GPS in it. It's basically as powerful as a decent laptop these days, depending what phone you have. And you can get all kinds of great apps that have different maps. I mean, Gaia GPS, which you mentioned and I recommend, that I use all the time, has so many different, there's hundreds of different maps that you can stack all on top of each other. So if you really wanted to get, complex with it, you could look at a base level map, and then you could overlay maybe a historic map, and you could overlay snow cover, and then overlay a weather forecast on top of that. The things you can do with that are incredible in terms of the intelligence and the information that you can get all right on your phone. What I'd say, if you're brand new to hiking and you've never hiked before, All Trails is a good option. I don't know what the coverage is like in Europe, but All Trails, there are some downsides because it's basically a trail guide. It has a map and it has a line, and you stay on the line, and that's how you navigate. And obviously there's more to navigation, but it's a great way to start. And if you were alive 200 years ago, this would blow people's minds, the fact that you can have a GPS. It blows my mind now, and I'm used to technology. But All Trails is a good app, especially in the United States. It has a lot of different trails. You can find trails that are easy and have certain parameters, like not a lot of climbing or whatever it might be, and you can basically just follow along the line. Now, that's a good place to start. It's also a way to get into trouble. So you need to look at how much climbing there is. You need to look at the weather, the conditions, and don't just follow the line. But the fact that you're on the line or not on the line is a good way to do it. And All Trails is great for beginners. The problem with All Trails, and you're not going to know if this is the case if you don't know about the trail, is that it's a crowdsourced trail guide. So if you have somebody records a track and they go on a little side trip to the stream, and then they go up here to the bathroom and they do this and that, all of those little movements will be recorded, and then you're going to follow to the stream and you're going to follow where the guy went to the bathroom. You can edit them. There can be crowdsourcing editing, but they're not always the best quality, but they can be. Generally, most of the time they are. If you want to get an app that is what I think is probably the best app for mobile, I would say get Gaia GPS.
Yes.
It's weak on the community trails. So there's a community section where people share their hikes and everything. But for whatever reason, it's not quite as user friendly or as slick as All Trails or some other ones like Wikiloc or Komoot. But the power that you have in the map layers, you can basically have all these different map layers on your device. If you get a pro account, you can download those to your phone. So when you're out of cell phone range and you put your phone in airplane mode, you still have all that information there. And that's a good way to start. I would just say that if you are starting and you're going to use your phone, you have to know that when it starts raining out, the phone is no good. No bueno in the rain. The touch screen goes crazy. It's hard to operate. It's just been raining here in Southern California, which is a rarity, but it's rained, a dozen times in the last month or two. And I've been out hiking with it, and I forgot because it doesn't rain here much, but it's just not a great experience if the screen is wet.
Okay.
But for beginner, I would start with, or even Wikiloc, I think is a good one for beginners. Probably in Europe, better in the States. And then if you want to get a little more advanced, get Gaia GPS. And if you want something that works in all conditions, you're better off investing in a dedicated GPS, like a Garmin GPS map.
For example, Chris, from all in my case, this is my profile on Wikiloc. I love it. I use Gaia GPS, and I also use Wikiloc. For example, this is like my social, where I post all my routes. And I use Gaia GPS for navigate. So this is my case. But Chris, you that have been tried many GPS, for you, which one is the one that you recommend? If I need to purchase, I'm already a pro hiker. I learned how to use Gaia and everything, and I need to move to more professional device. From all the devices, which one do you recommend?
Right now, I think the best device is probably the Garmin GPS Map 66 SR. That was a mouthful there, but it's essentially a handheld unit. You can operate everything with buttons. Everything works with buttons, so you can use it with gloves on. You can use it when it's pouring rain out. The interface on the Garmin's, if people aren't aware, it definitely feels dated. It feels like you're using maybe a smartphone from 1998.
Yeah, it's true.
And it can definitely use a refresh, but there is an advantage to having things be simple, especially when you're very tired, when visibility is low. Having that system be simple makes it easier to operate, and it's less like with the Garmin. I never have to squint and look at the screen and say, okay, what am I looking at? But what if I'm using Gaia? Sometimes there's so much information packed on that iPhone screen that it's hard to see, it's hard to process.
It's true.
And these are things that you don't realize until you really use these things for hours and hours and hours in all kinds of conditions. But the GPS Map 66 SR, fits in your hand, has a good battery, but also important is the multi-bands GPS. So it not only uses GPS, Galileo, I think it does Beta. I'm not sure, the Chinese one, but it has several different GPS or GNSS constellations, satellite systems that it'll pull from. But it also has multi-band, and you can think of that as, and I'm going to probably date myself here because I'm an old guy, but AM and FM radio, or like medium wave and FM radio, right?
Okay.
In Europe. So if you're on AM or medium wave, it's that crackly, welcome to it sounds crazy. And that's how the original GPS signals are. And I'm making an abstraction here just to.
No, but it makes sense. It totally makes sense.
So your reception isn't good. And the GPS unit is taking that signal and taking data out of it to figure out where you are. So if the signal quality isn't that good, it's not going to give you a quality signal. Whereas the newer satellites that go up have newer bands, almost like satellite radio or FM radio. And the signal quality and the encryption and the encoding is all done in a way that gives you a more reliable data stream coming down to your unit. And the 66SR can receive those types of signals. And it's good too if you're in like a challenging environment, like a canyon, like a deep canyon. When the GPS signals bounce off the walls, the timing is off, and then you can get an incorrect position. But with these new multi-band signals, they can correct for that and give you a more precise position in a challenging environment like a canyon or a slot canyon.
Okay. And I saw your reviews about Garmin, but for example, here Valida is asking, what do you for trial running? What do you think? Which brand do you think is better, the Suunto or Garmin?
Yeah, it's interesting. I used the Suunto a while ago. I used to test those, and I just moved on to the Garmin because the Garmin in general had a much better feature set. Most notably the maps, like having the onboard trail maps, I think is important. And I'm not even sure what the recent Suunto has, but yeah, I mean, I don't know the specifics of the latest and greatest outside of the Garmin one, but I would say that at this point, they're all really good. Okay. It's hard to find one that's like, this is just a big stinker. You know what I mean? They're all good. Yeah. It's hard to go wrong. I like the Garmin personally because I like that it just has all of the maps and all of the navigation on board, and you don't really have to think much about it. I mean, you can literally buy like a Phoenix or an Epix, take it out of the box, make sure there's some battery, and you can go hiking. You can have it plan a hike for you. You can record a hike. There's no extra steps to go through in order to make any of that work. So it's just, yeah. And Chris,
let me ask you one question with two. Then we will reply Noah's question. But let me ask you one question with two. I know you prefer the Epix. I am the Fenix 7X Solar. But why you choose the Epix because with this you have more battery life, and if you're hiking for many days, this is gonna be better. So why you choose that? And the second one, so you can answer that also. Yeah. When you are hiking, you use your Garmin GPS device, and I thought you're recording your track, your GPX with your GPS. But do you also are tracking the route? I mean, you also are tracking the route here and record the route with your watch. Do you record twice? And why you choose the Epic instead of the Phoenix?
Yeah, so to answer the last one first, I always record with my watch when I hike. I always do the recording. Sometimes I navigate on it. Generally, because I hike so much, if I'm going somewhere new, I'll use a GPS device to navigate. But if I've been on a trail before and I know where I am, I don't necessarily need I don't need a track. I know where I am. I've looked at a map. Perfect. And you know, I think if you're hiking somewhere for the first time, it's always a great idea to get a reliable GPX track and load it onto at least two devices. So that could be your phone and your watch, or it could be a handheld and a watch, but electronics fail, things break. So having a backup is a great thing. Whether you actually want those turn-by-turn prompts is really a personal preference. Like if you navigate on a watch, you know, to get back to the other question about trail running, one of the great things about the Garmin is that you have these prompts and it'll say like, you know, 100 meters, right turn. If you're hiking, you don't need that heads up because you're walking at such a slow pace that you're not moving like that. But if you're running or you're on a mountain bike, having that advanced notice is helpful.
Exactly. You need to know that in advance. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Whereas when you're hiking, it can seem like a lot sometimes. It's almost like, you know, if you're driving somewhere and you have Google Maps and it's like, make a left on Main Street or whatever. I don't, you know, it's probably more than you necessarily need if you're hiking. But again, it's whatever your comfort level is in terms of navigation. For the Epix versus Phoenix, I mean, they're both great watches, and they're both essentially the same, I'd say, aside from the screen. The Epix has the AMOLED screen, which has like 480 by 480 pixels, and the Phoenix has the daylight reflective. I forget what it's called. I forget what the acronym is, but you basically need daylight to see it correctly. And it also has a little flashlight on top, which is kind of handy as well. If you're going to go hike something like the PCT, or you're going out for a multi-day hike and you don't want to have to charge, I think the Phoenix is a great option. For me, as somebody who primarily day hikes, or if I go for a backpacking trip, it's 1 or 2 nights, I have enough charge on my Epix to cover that without recharging. And I really like the AMOLED screen. I find it much easier to read. There's a little thing that happens that I don't really see people talking about. When you have one of the transflective, that's the word I was looking for, the transflective screens, like you need the sunlight. You always have to move your hand a little bit to catch the light right. Okay. It's very rare that it's just there and the sun is hitting it exactly and you can look at it. You always have to move it a little bit. And once you take that out of your workflow, it sounds like a very minor thing, but with the Epix, I never have to move it to adjust it, or I never have to hit a backlight ever. Okay. For me, that makes it a little bit easier. And also the screen on the Epix has more pixels in it. And because it's brighter and has more pixels, the maps are have a lot more detail and are a lot easier to read. Yeah. So it's nice for me to have the map on there if I want to know like what a trail name is. If I come to a junction or I pass a trail and I'm like, oh, what's that trail? I never knew what that was. Okay. It's easy enough for me just to look at the map on here and I can see the trail name on the map page. Yeah, it's true. I have that option also. Yeah. You need to zoom in more or adjust it. So yeah, it's true. And you mentioned that if you are hiking the Appalachian Trail or whatever, I mean, you need the Phoenix. But have you ever completed the Appalachian Trail or the PCT? Have you gone through a long hike with many days? I wish I have done those. I've never done this whole through hikes. I mean, like we said earlier, if I was 18. I would be there right now hiking for 4 months at a time, doing things, but it's just not an option for me with a family. That said, I have hiked many sections of the PCT and the Appalachian Trail. Oh yeah. Actually, what interesting story. One of the things that almost got me to never hike again was the Appalachian Trail. What happened, Chris? At high school, I don't even know. There was some sort of a club in high school and they were going for a hike and I signed up for it. And the teacher took us to a part of the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania where it's very rocky there. And I'm not sure what the rock is, maybe slate or something, but it's all just, if you took like a thick book, like a rock that's shaped like a thick book and you put them all like stacked up, and then you put leaves on top of it, dead leaves. It was probably 10 miles, which for, when you're like 13 years old is a long way. And it was the most miserable time, one of the most miserable times I ever had. Probably the teacher was trying to punish us and get back at the misbehavior in the classroom, but that was just miserable. And I've since gone back and hiked that. And I remember thinking, well, I would never bring a kid here, but I have hiked. There's many beautiful parts of the Appalachian Trail, like through the Shenandoah Mountains and the Smoky Mountains. And here, where I live in Southern California, I'm an hour away from a lot of the Pacific Crest Trail here in Southern California. And it's on my hikes a lot. And I travel a lot to the Pacific Northwest. And I've hiked on the PCT in Oregon and Washington states, and also up in Northern California. So I'm lucky in the fact that I get to basically take little samplers of it, take little tastes of it. And at some point I might section hike it, where you break it up into sections and you just do what you can do it. As much as I'd like to do the whole thing, it's just probably not realistic for me to leave my family for 4 months and and
Yeah,
hike.
it's the same with me. In my case, that I want to do it this summer, it's gonna be
Yeah.
around, I don't know, maybe 16 days out of my house. And I just, since we are from Dominican Republic, living in Spain, I just convinced my wife that hey, honey, why don't you spend the summer in Dominican Republic with the family? And this is what I have in mind. But Chris, going to our last question, and I want to
Yeah.
make it, a beautiful one. And before I ask you this, you answer, I want to tell you why I am asking you this. I'm a dad. I have my two beautiful princes, my two beautiful daughters, and I have memories hiking with them. My wife are growing; they're growing so fast. One is 15, and the other one is 12 years old. And I know one day that is not gonna be the Superman, a superhero. I know one day they will spread the wings and they will fly away. And I have, and in my memory, if I need to travel to that moment in the future, and I need to think a memory with my daughter, I can remember that with one of them I crossed the Pyrenees and we did the 2 day hiking, and with the other one we crossed the Pyrenees and we landed in a French town, and we spent a very nice. So it's like the memories that I have. Now my question is, Chris, of course not about your family, don't worry. I won't touch personal topics, but
Yeah.
what, oh, that's great. Which one is your most beautiful experience hiking? I mean, if I need to ask you, Chris, from all the experience that you have, which one is the one that you have in your heart that there's a memory that you will live with that forever?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that I'm lucky because I have a lot of those. I have the best the best times when I go and I do a trail for the first time. So I'm not filming it; I'm just experiencing it. And some trails that come to mind, doing a trail called the Timberline Trail, which goes around Mount Hood. It's in Oregon. It's
Okay.
30 something miles. Doing that, and just, I mean, you know how it is. Like some hikes, every turn you make, you see a new view, and you go, oh. And then 2 minutes later, oh, it's almost like it's like experiencing art in every piece. If I go in an art museum and every single painting touches you emotionally, you're like, oh, and you think that it can't get better, and then it gets better. The Grand Canyon, the rim to rim, or even just, it doesn't have to be anything that's like an epic trail, but just going and experiencing places. And the fun thing about hiking more and more, especially here in Southern California, where we're lucky to have a lot of different types of climates and ecosystems, is that the more I hike, even in the same trails, the more I see.
Yeah.
The more things I'm aware of, and it's whether it's plants or animals or just a viewpoint, or knowing that, oh, that's, last time I did this, I didn't know what that mountain is, and now I know what that mountain is, and around there is that, and just having more of an awareness of it all is just such a beautiful thing. It's great. But if I had to pick one thing that I really love, like I said, it's doing a trail for the first time, and not having any expectations or obviously anything I have to do work-wise to document it, but just experiencing the beauty in nature, and just enjoying it is just always a beautiful thing for me, no matter where I am. So.
And happened to you? No, I mean, it's so sweet, and I feel the same with you. First of all, Mario, thank you so much. He's enjoying a lot of this interview. Chris, and happy to you what happened to me, that when I go hike very early in the morning on a Saturday, and my wife and my daughter are still sleeping, and
Oh, yeah.
and when I saw a beautiful paradise like you just described, I'm calling in a FaceTime to my wife, hey honey, look where I am. And you can see Chris, my wife, like, honey, you want to come with me? No. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I turn around, Chris, and I'm calling my wife again. Hey, honey. And she said, Jordi, this is the same trees and the same mountain like 1 hour ago. please don't go anymore. And what happened to me, and what happened to me, Chris, that if I'm hiking with a friend, it doesn't matter. I just call my wife, and there's more than one time that my wife is in pajama preparing the breakfast to my daughter. Hey, honey, look with the friend that I am. Wait, Chris, and then you see my wife's face. Honey, this is so. And when I got home in the night, she always said, Jordi, this is the last time I want you to call me with someone. Look at my pajama. That happened to you also, Chris?
Oh yeah, now that we have 5G, I seem to get better reception. And when I get to the top of the mountain or something, I'm always like, I'm going to FaceTime my wife and show her this beautiful view. And she's probably sick of me. They're like, yeah, there's a bunch of rocks and there's a view, same as you did last time. Same thing. But yeah, no.
Look, Chris, I don't know if you saw it or not. If not, I recommend you. I promise you. With that, we'll end with this. We won't end this interview. But Chris, let me show you this. I have a very good story about this with my small daughter, Noelia. We were hiking. This is my videos, and wait. Okay. This one, I really recommend everybody to see this one, Chris. This one is very good because, Chris, we were crossing from Spain to crossing the Pyrenees. This is the Pyrenees, and then going to the French side. And in that road, I was asking to my daughter, the small one, and she's over there. Honey, are you having fun with that? Yeah. Honey, are you sure we have it? Yeah. And look at her face over here. You can see her face. Look at her face.
Yeah, I know that face. I've seen my face. Yeah.
You know that face. And then
I know that face.
And then the night caught us again. And I don't know why, Chris, but in the French side of the Pyrenees, when it's getting night, there's a lot of long daddy leg spider. I don't know the name. There's a spider with a huge leg. I don't know why. It's only in the French side, and you can see my daughter's face. That and I say, hey, honey, are you having fun with daddy? And just look at her face. Okay, I don't know if you can see her face over there. It's like, and she told me that. Could you please be quiet? but anyway, Chris, thank you so much for this interview. Like I said, I admire you a lot. My wife, not too much. She's tired of me purchasing things to try to be like Chris, but it was a real honor. If someday you are near Barcelona, you have a house here. My house is your house. And I hope that this is a beautiful beginning of a relationship that I hope that it would last forever. Chris, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything. It was a blast. I always love talking hiking, and this was a lot of fun. And if you come to California, you know where I am too. We'll get out on the trail together.
I will. Believe me, Chris. I will. I also love to hike. Sorry, there's also something that my wife always told me, and my friends, that they say, but Jordi, this is the same trees, this is the same road, this is the same mountain. Why you have 600 pictures of a hike with the same everything? I'm tired to see trees. But anyway, Chris, thank you so much. Have a great time. Please stay with me while I say goodbye to you. 1 second.
Sounds good.
Dear Chris Hazard, aka Hiking Guy, I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude for participating in this interview on Jordi Tom's channel. Your insights and tips on hiking and enjoying nature have been invaluable and truly inspiring. It has been a pleasure to learn from you and hear about your experiences as an avid hiker. Your passion for the outdoors is contagious, and I am sure many viewers have been inspired to explore the great outdoors thanks to your guidance. As you move on to your next adventure, I want to wish you all the best and express my gratitude once more for taking the time to share your knowledge and expertise with us. Your contribution to the hiking community is immeasurable, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Thank you and farewell, Hiking Guy.